take 38 months to get. 38 months. Good work. Now there's an auto strike.
Recording in progress.
Good evening. Time being 7 o'clock, I call the September 20th, 2023 meeting of the Franklin Town Council to order. Please pause for a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Announcements from the chair. All citizens are now welcome to attend public board and committee meetings in person. Meetings are live streamed by Franklin TV and shown on a change, Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29. In an effort to maximize citizen engagement opportunities, citizens will be able to continue to participate remotely via phone, or you may click the Zoom link that's on the posted agenda and on the town's website. Phone number is 929-205-6099 and enter the meeting ID, which is 858-8825-7084. Then you need to hit the pound sign. Once again, the number is 858-8825-7084 pound. If residents are just interested in watching the meeting, it will also be live streamed by Franklin TV. Okay, citizens' comments. Citizens are welcome to express their views for up to 3 minutes on a matter that is not on the agenda. The council will not engage in a dialogue or comment on a matter raised during citizens' comments. The town council will give remarks appropriate consideration and may ask the town administrator to review the matter. Is there anyone in council chambers that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda, other than the town clerk?
Thank you.
Nancy.
He always blusters me, so today I came prepared. I wrote everything down. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council members. So, Nancy Danello, and I'm your town clerk. I'm here tonight to talk about the 2 elections that we have coming up. The first is October 24th, the Tri-County election. And that's for the construction of a new school, and this will be held at the Franklin High School between the hours of 12 and 8. And it is not precinct specific. I know you're probably sick of hearing me say it's not precinct specific. So I want to explain what that means. I'm going to have 4 tabulators set up with 4 ladies sitting up front, okay? And I'll have 10 ballot booths per table set up. You do not have to go to your precinct to vote, okay? You can go to any lady and you can insert your ballot into any tabulator. So what does that mean for the end of the night? We're going to have a yes vote and we're going to have a no vote. I can give you the totals of yes, totals of no. That's it, okay? We will not have how many people voted yes in Precinct 1 and how many voted no in Precinct 1. Back in 1995, I did some research. We had 500 people come out to vote. I hope we get more than that this time, 500 people. Now, granted, we had a lot less voters, but 12 to 8 will be really slow if we only get 500 people out. So I've been getting a lot of calls from people who are unaware of this election, okay? So we just had a meeting with the Tri-County, and I specifically asked, because they did tell us at our first meeting that they were going to send out notices to the public, and they will be doing so. And they're also going to be at the Harvest Fest, and they'll be throughout town at the farmers market. They are going to inform the public I will have all the signs up at the Village Mall, over by the bridge uptown. So the signs will all be up. Everything is on my website, and Tri-County also has a website up. So ironically, tonight, they're holding a meeting as well with their school committee, and they're voting on the proposed ballot question. So I will be ordering those ballots probably tomorrow or some point next week. Now, you can request ballots be mailed to you, and we will certainly mail those, and you can also come in and vote in person, okay, during regular business hours. And last day to register to vote for this election will be October 14th, and that is a Saturday, and you can come into the clerk's office from 9 to 5. On to the next election. So that will be held on November 7th. So we're going to be basically running 2 elections at the same time, okay? So this election will be at the Franklin High School, and it will be from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Vote by mail and in-person early voting is also an option for this election. In-person early voting will be done during regular business hours at the town hall in my office. And I will be doing extended hours. I will open on a Saturday, October 28th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. for anybody that wants to come in and vote for the November election, the town election. And that is the last day to register to vote, between 9 and 5, the 28th, again, in my office. Now, I want to stress to people, as I said, we're going to be running 2 elections at the same time. What does that mean? 2 different ballots are going to be mailed out, basically around the same time. I'm going to try and hold off a couple of days. I'll get the Tri-County ballots out first. I'm going to try and hold off for a couple of days before I mail out the town ballots. Those envelopes are going to be clearly marked. I got big red stamps for the town election. I'm going to be stamping the envelopes, town election. The Tri-County election will be a green stamp, okay? Clearly marked. It's your responsibility. Make sure that you put the correct ballot in the correct envelope. If you don't, your vote doesn't count. I will have to reject it. I don't want to reject anybody's vote, okay? And if you don't sign the envelope, again, I have to reject it, okay? If the ballot comes back and it's not signed, I know who you are. I'll make an attempt to contact you, to come in, sign the ballot envelope, send you a letter. If I can't contact you by phone, I will make an effort. And I may even, if I have time, mail you out another ballot with a letter. But these envelopes will be clearly marked, so please make sure you put the ballots in the right envelopes. That's it. Thank you all very much, and I will be back once the ballots come in, and just to inform you on what's going on with these elections. Thank you very much, all of you.
As always, thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Dan.
Is there anyone else in council chambers that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, is there anyone out there in Zoom land that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? I don't see any. Amy, you see anybody? Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from August 16th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Additions, deletions. Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Proclamations and recognitions. We have none this evening. We do have a few appointments. First appointment is Council on Aging. Colette Ferguson, clerk, will read the appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an appointment to the Council on Aging for Colette Ferguson of 41 Prospect Street, Franklin, Mass. 02038. The town administrator has appointed, subject to town council ratification, Colette Ferguson to serve as a member of the Council on Aging with the term to expire on June 30th, 2026. This is a motion to ratify the appointment by the town administrator of Colette Ferguson to serve as a member of the Council on Aging.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion, Jamie.
Through Mr. Chairman, the Council on Aging took this issue up and has recommended Colette, who is no stranger to volunteering in the town of Franklin. So we hope you'll endorse this nomination.
Thank you, Jamie. Questions or comments from the council?
Just thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for stepping forward and volunteering, Colette. Okay, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second appointment this evening is Finance Committee, Heather Sansucci. Clerk will read the appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an appointment to the Finance Committee of Heather Sansucci of 1 Dartmouth Road, Franklin, Mass. 02038. The town administrator has appointed, subject to town council ratification, Heather Sansucci to serve as a member of the Finance Committee with the term to expire on June 30th, 2025. This is a motion to ratify the appointment by the town administrator of Heather Sansucci to serve as a member of the Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Jamie.
Same as comments as before, and I would just point out Heather was the only participant in the last couple Finance Committee meetings. So, and as George Conley always says, Heather, you're in Zoom. As George Conley says, nobody shows up, but one person showed up. So we'll give her the appointment, and welcome to the big leagues.
Let's swear you in right now.
Now you have to show.
Yeah.
And then you can fix the budget.
Don't scare her away.
Questions or comments from the council? Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Heather, thank you for stepping up and helping out. It means a lot. The volunteerism is definitely one of the biggest challenges that we have here in town, and it seems to be getting worse. A good example, for instance, is as Nancy pointed out before this election coming up, there's only 10 people running for 9 seats in the council. 7 people running for school committee, and there's only 7 seats. So, I'm sorry?
1 for 2 on board.
Yeah, 1 for 2. So volunteerism is weak, and people stepping up like yourself is much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to wholeheartedly endorse this particular candidate. She's someone that's personally known to me, but also I have watched her very passionately advocate for the proper funding, ask tons of questions at meetings over the years, and I'm excited to see what she can do on the Finance Committee. So thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier Ledger. Any other councilors? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion to appoint Heather Sansucci to the Finance Committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome aboard, Heather. Next appointment is Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, Kimberly Muchow. Clerk will read the appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an appointment to the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust for Kimberly Muchow, 4 Briarwood Road, Franklin, Mass. 02038. The town administrator has appointed, subject to town council ratification, Kimberly Muchow to serve as a member of the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust with a term to expire on June 30th, 2024. This is a motion to ratify the appointment by the town administrator of Kimberly Muchow to serve as a member of the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Jamie.
Same as before, Mr. Chairman. Kim's no stranger to volunteering in town. She's been doing a great job for many years, and we're happy to have her on the Affordable Housing Trust.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. Questions or comments from the council?
Again, just thank you.
Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Folks, thank you very much for stepping forward and volunteering of your time. It's certainly very much appreciated by this body. So, moving on. Public hearings, we don't have any this evening. No license transactions. Presentations and discussions, we have 3 items. First item is a presentation from the Franklin Elks Riders donation to the Veteran Services Department. Jamie, you want to do the lead-in? Or
I think Shannon's gonna,
Shannon's going to...
Shannon and Deborah, is Deborah over? Yeah. Oh,
Please.
sorry, the post, Deborah.
Come right
Yeah.
forward.
Thanks, Shannon.
Chairman
Steve?
Mercer.
We need Steve with an adjustment over here.
Chairman Mercer and town councilors, I'd first like to invite Rich and Dee Gately from the Elks Riders and the whole group to please come forward.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Council. We're back again, and we had a very successful ride again this year. And every time we come up, I bring a couple of different people with us. And we have been lucky where since 2020, COVID, we started, and we're up to now 32 members, and it makes it easy to raise funds. So we would once again like to offer to the Veterans Gift Fund $1,000.
Great.
Deborah and I want to thank the Elks Riders from the bottom of our hearts for your steadfast and generous support of our Franklin veterans and their families. You always show up for our veterans, and we could not fulfill our mission without you. We are so fortunate that your organization recognizes the sacrifices and bravery of our veterans and strives to ensure that they are always taken care of. You exemplify volunteerism and dedication to your community. Thank you for all that you do.
And I think we have a second presentation from the Franklin Elks Bingo donation to the Veteran Services Department. Jen, please.
Chairman Mercer, I'd like to introduce Mark Ellis and Maureen Jocelyn.
Chairman and Town Council, how are you?
Good to see you, Mark.
It's good to be here. They always pick me to make these presentations. I don't know why, but as long as you know, the Elks, we try and do a lot for the community. One of our biggest ones, the Elks Riders were just here, is our veterans. If you ever come by the lodge, we have a stone right out in the front of our lodge. It says, as long as there are veterans, the Benevolent Protective Order of Elks will never forget them, and we never will. So tonight, we're here on behalf of our members and our officers. But I'd specifically like to thank the 25 people that work bingo, where I have to go back to after I make this presentation, every Wednesday night, so we can do donations like this. And it gives me great pleasure to present to the town of Franklin, but for the Franklin Veterans Gift Fund, and also present a check to Shannon in the amount of, let me get the big check.
We got. Do we need a drum roll?
You don't get to keep this one. $10,000. Wow.
I was going to say lock the door before Shannon goes out.
Wow.
That's all I have, Chairman.
Wow.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you to the Franklin Lodge of Elks. And
That's amazing.
because
Shannon.
this is part of our, go ahead.
Oh,
Shannon.
I'm sorry,
go
Chairman
ahead.
Mercer, I do want to express our deepest gratitude to the Franklin Elks Club Bingo for this incredibly generous donation. They have provided continual support to our veterans year after year, and this support is crucial to our mission. We will judiciously use all the funds received tonight to positively impact the lives and well-being of our veterans in greatest need. We are the home of the free because of the brave, and the Franklin Elks Club always remembers this. To the Franklin Elks Bingo and the Franklin Elks Riders, thank you for your incredible generosity and community leadership.
Thank you, Sharon. And while the members of the Elks are still here, with the council's indulgence, I'll jump out of order here and take the legislation for action, and we'll do Resolution 23-53, gift acceptance, Veteran Services Department. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 23-53, acceptance of gifts for the Veteran Services Department. Whereas the Veteran Services Department has received a very generous donation in the amount of $11,000 to be used at the discretion of the department for programs and services as follows. Donation summary, Veteran Services Department, 1 Veterans Gift Fund, $11,000 to be used in support of local veterans and their families. $10,000 donated by Franklin Elks Bingo, $1,000 donated by the Franklin Elks Riders. Total donation amount, $11,000. Now, therefore be resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Franklin, on behalf of the Veteran Services Department, gratefully accepts these generous donations to be used at the discretion of the department as described above. This resolution to become effective according to the provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Move Resolution 23-53.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Jamie?
Set, thank
All
you.
set? Questions or comments from the council? Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was an elk for 14 years, and this is not one shock at all to me about the benevolence of this organization. I just, from my heart, thank you so much, both for the Elks and for the veterans, which is a huge donation because I'm a huge supporter of the veterans as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilor DeLorco?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, along with Councilor Mercer, I believe we're both Franklin Elks, so I would like to thank my brother Elks and for the great work they do all year long. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor DeLorco. Any other councilors? And I would just say, as a life member of the Franklin Lodge of Elks, and I just appreciate all you do for the community and for our veterans. We can't thank you enough. We see you all the time, Mark, and we thank you every time you come. And the Elks Riders, thank you so much. B6.
We didn't vote yet.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't vote yet.
We didn't vote yet.
No.
All right.
You can't keep it.
No, we did.
Nope.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, discussion. Town Council goals update. Mr. Town Administrator.
Hopefully they speak for themselves, but just for the folks at home, if you go franklinma.gov, if you go to the town calendar, go to tonight's agenda, in the packet is a maybe 5-6 page document, 5 pages on the goals that the council and town administration set, I guess almost like 19 months ago. It feels like 38 months ago, but it was a year and a half ago.
Time flies when you're having fun.
And as you can see on this list, Mr. Chairman, we had a lot of fun. You know, I think it's there for people to read. I'm not going to rehash it all in its entirety. But ultimately, the message to the community is almost all of these goals actually got completed. And there were a few in there that the community is still working on. And some of these issues do, as people know, transcend legislative sessions. You can't always get everything crammed in because once the election happens in another month, then the entire session basically starts over. So anything that's pending essentially dies and goes before it. So as I look at this list, Mr. Chairman, I just can't say enough about the entire town staff and their incredible dedication and work ethic, and obviously I'd be remiss if I didn't thank all of you on the council, the school committee, the planning board, Board of Health, Board of Assessors, all of our volunteer committees, and the finance committee. This is really, truly a major team effort. We can't do all of this without one another. And in the community, hopefully people look at here and believe that achievement of the, if not all of these goals, that all of them have had a lot of attention over the last couple of years for a couple that we're still working on, namely some zoning bylaws. But there's been millions of dollars in investment in infrastructure. There's been a lot of open space purchases, community preservation projects, and I could go down the list. The AAA bond rating for the first time over the last 2 years. You know, we've had sterling audits, financial audits for the last couple of years. I don't want to bore everybody, but I hope everybody's proud of the work that they put into this. We have an exceptional team and really, quite frankly, second to none, as many of you who work with MMA and do other communities and look at other communities. Councilor Peter Padula, I think I end this way every year. You know, other communities across the Commonwealth, virtually everyone try to emulate what the town of Franklin does. And this list, I hope, showcases a difference between Franklin and everywhere else, which is we all work together. We may not always agree on every issue all the time, but as our new deputy town administrator and many elders who work in their associations can attest to, not every community works well together. But this community, with all of you and all of the staff, work very collaboratively together, and I think, I hope that the quality of life in this community has improved over the last 2 years from the achievement in these goals. So happy to obviously answer any questions anybody has on each one of these. I know there's a few of them that I've noted will be presentations. Still 3 more meetings, so there's still a little bit to be done here, and there's still a couple more EDC meetings.
We're not giving up yet, Jamie.
We're not giving up yet. You know, there's a few things in here in bylaws, also a couple presentations that we've scheduled for the last few meetings of the session. And so that will show that every goal on this list was either achieved and completed or will have its due time in the next couple months. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. And just so our audience understands what these goals are, how we set these goals, we have an annual or biannual election. After that election in November, in January, the sitting council then puts together has goal-setting sessions where we put together the goals that we look to, that we would like to accomplish over the 2-year period that we were elected for. Then halfway through, January of the next year, we sit again and we look at those and we see if we need to make any adjustments or if we want to add to them. And that's how the goal session does, so how it happens. So again, come January of 2024, the sitting council will then sit down, put together goals that they'd like to accomplish or we'd like to accomplish in the next 2 years. So that's how they go. That's how they're put together. So at this point, I'd look to the council. Any questions or comments? Councilor Jones.
You wouldn't guess any less, right?
I would not.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you to the town administration as well as to the town council, as I look upon these goals, the one wish I had was instead of these being red, they were green. Because there's just so many.
Panther blue?
There are just so.
Panther blue.
Look at that.
That works. There are just so many things on this list of goals that have been completed, and they've been completed not only in a timely fashion, but in an efficient fashion. And what this is in my opinion, what this is a true reflection of is the hard work that both the town administrator and his administration has put into making these goals come to fruition, but also the forward-thinking progressive ideas and goal settings that the town council has made. I mean, we are just as much a part of these goals being a success as much as we are putting them on a list for the future. Looking at this list and so many things that have been accomplished, it's just remarkable to me how awesome how awesome this is. I really have nothing more to say than that. But I am looking forward to doing Jamie's review in the spring. I'm sorry, in January, because these goals are directly reflective of that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to echo the sentiments of the other councilors to Jamie and to your entire administration. Thank you. In an age when many, many people look to television and see what's happening in Washington and happening all across the country, happening at local boards, they get disgusted with government. They get disgusted with leadership. They get, all we see is problem after problem after problem. But this list shows that things can get done. People can work together. People can disagree and still move things forward and make a community better, make a community stronger. And we're very lucky to have this list, and I hope that everybody really appreciates it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier Ledger. Councilor Chandler.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I know everyone has a lot of words for this list, but the one that came to me was, I think we're all very proud of this list. You know, everyone's very proud that what you were able to accomplish, we were able to accomplish. But one thing I just wanted to bring up, I mean, we did get, what, $6.5 million in federal stimulus money, Jamie?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, more than that.
More than that, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, we were able to do a lot more than
Yeah.
what might be coming up on our next goal session with that money. Actually, how much is left for our next
Through you,
round?
Mr. Chairman, this is actually probably, we've probably spent $7.5 million so
Yeah.
far.
Okay.
We got about $1.3 million left in ARPA County obligations that we just talked to the DPW and the police chief about just actually this past week. Those applications have to go into the county probably by the beginning of the year. As like all the other projects, they're projects that are designed, to your point, Council Chandler, to essentially offset truly tax increases, right? Water rates, sewer rates, all these other issues. I mean, this work all is getting done without having to raise rates, which is really important. It's helping to stabilize those rates, which is really key. And including the mental health clinician, which now, today we have a second person. Oh, you already know. How'd you find that out? No. And then there's a little bit left, not much in the ARPA municipal category. But to your point, all money has to be obligated and contracted a year from now.
Right.
And then you can spend the money through 2026, but by this time next year, we're already going to have it obligated, contracted out for stormwater, water, sewer, and the other projects that we've talked about in the past. So Councilor Chandler is correct, and we've talked about this at the Joint Budget Subcommittee, for both the school and the town. All the federal stimulus money will essentially be dried up within the next year. And so, yeah, you're correct. This will not be on next year's goal list because there won't be anything left.
Well, lastly, I'm sure you'll squeeze every penny out of that $1.5 million and use it
Yeah.
for very important things like this.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Any other councilors? Councilor Hamblin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through the chair. I really don't have any questions, but this is, I think the town administrator knows this is kind of like my favorite time of the year when we actually get to sit back and look at what we've done. Because I kind of just put my head down and I go, 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 go. And I feel like I push the town administration team, I push the town staff, maybe a little bit too much, but it's amazing what we can achieve. It's just, I always get really excited about this sheet. I think there's one thing that people should really pay attention to, and that's that Brian Taberner, he got a grant from the EPA to work on that new style problem and property, and that's like a really big thing, because that's been like an albatross around our necks, and that was really great. So I'm always glad that I push all the time. I guess, but thank you all for all your work, hard work, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Councilor Frangillo.
Sure. I share in the gratitude for my colleagues and for town administration, and pride for how much we've been able to accomplish. I mean, there's some really big deals on here. I don't want to confuse that pride for complacency, so I'm going to take the opportunity to just point out some things that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, you know, in terms of continued follow-through, right? Because we've gotten a lot of these started, but there's still a lot more to go and follow through. Certainly, both the Franklin for All and Housing Production Plan recommendations, there's still more to be done on that front. In general, I mean, we go out and we use these reports and studies, one of which we're about to approve today. They take a long time, and we don't want to let them just sit on a shelf. Making sure that we're still going through and following through on all those important recommendations. The complete streets, you know, we added language that said we want to implement complete streets grants and otherwise expand pedestrian and biking trails. And so still looking for opportunities that as we design, you know, especially as we, you know, revisit current streets, as we maintain current streets, are there opportunities to expand walk and bikeability, particularly of our downtown. Trail maintenance plan, it's great that we've now put some ideas toward how we are going to maintain trails. Now we actually have to go out and do those, and I look forward to that work. The solid waste master plan, I think that's going to be a really important thing. I know that we've been waiting for this land swap, so I look forward to seeing what that solid waste master plan looks like, and particularly if we can incorporate composting into that. And the final one is that net zero plan, right? So we added language that said we want to, you know, make sure that Franklin is planning out how we're going to be able to do our part in meeting the state goals of net zero emissions by 2050. This is not, you know, just for moral grandstanding, but rather this is the direction that the state's going, and we get to save our residents money in the long run if we can be proactive about planning how we meet those goals. So those are the things that are still on my plate to look for. Don't let that take away from how proud I am of how much we did get done in the past 2 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Councilor DeLarco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to echo everybody else's comments, and, you know, I just want to thank the staff and my fellow councilors for, you know, when this comes out, you do so much stuff in 2 years that you don't realize you're doing all that stuff, and sometimes you sit back and say, Jesus, have we done anything? You know, sometimes you sit back and you say that. And so when this comes out, it makes you feel good. You know that we're working really hard, and a lot of that has to do with Jamie and the staff at Franklin. So I do want to thank them because they get everything ready for us to okay everything, and all the work that my fellow councilors have done over the last 2 years. I appreciate that too. So thank you. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Councilor DeLarco. Any other councilors? Anyone in the audience? Any questions? Anyone in Zoom land? And I think the only thing I'd add, and I won't reiterate what everybody has already said, beyond, I think, the word that Councilor Chandler used of being proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the last 2 years is the exact word that we should be using this evening. Because there were so many things. I know when we first looked at the goals that we presented 2 years ago, we looked, I know we talked as councils, as individuals, and said, how are we ever going to get that done in those 2 years? But thanks to the administration, our department heads, and the entire community, we just can't thank you enough. And I think it would behoove every member of the community. Go on the website, pull up those goals that we set, and look at them and see what's been accomplished by your sitting town council as well as your administration and department heads. It is very impressive. And I want to thank everybody for all they have done to get us to this point. Jamie, anything to add?
What's up?
Okay, moving on, legislation for action. Resolution 23-54, ambulance transfer and appropriation. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 23-54, FY24 ambulance transfer and appropriation. The appropriation is for fiscal year '24 ambulance transfer and appropriation. Total amount requested, $406,223. The purpose is to transfer and appropriate funds from ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation fund in order to purchase an ambulance for the fire department. Ambulance, or the fire department, receipts reserved for appropriating the ambulance fund in the total amount $406,223. The motion be it moved and voted by the town council that the sum of $406,223 be transferred from the receipts reserved for appropriation ambulance fund and be appropriated to fund the purchase of an ambulance in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5F. And this resolution should become effective according to provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Move Resolution 23-54.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Jamie?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, through to the council, I know the fire chief is over with us. This is basically a vehicle that's already been on order. This is just the financial management of transferring the money in the right place. I won't go into a long speech on it, but as everybody knows, costs are going up. Your vehicle was ordered, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, the vendor is trying to say that the cost of the apparatus is going to be a little more expensive. And while we want to debate whether the contract and whatever's in place, my personal opinion is we can't play games with this stuff. Whether we're right and they're wrong, or whether we want to deal with it, the reality is if we make this vote tonight, that cost increase will not be seen on the final bill of the ambulance. And as I noted in here, the most jarring thing that the chief has recently told me about the urgency of this is if we were to order a vehicle today, it would be 34 months. And whenever someone tells me that, I tack on another third or some other more months, because everybody that's telling you something's going to show up, it does not show up. As illustrated again today by the fact that we got a message from the state, MassDOT, on our van for the senior center. It was supposed to be delivered next June, but now it's August. And so that's next August. That's if everything goes right, which it won't. And so it'll be next October, right? And so I am a little concerned, which is why we're here tonight, Mr. Chairman, for the urgency. The revenues have been raised. This is not a new expenditure. It's not a new vehicle. It's already in place. It's just us making the fiscal transaction to allow the chief to go back to the vendor and say, we're all set. We don't need the cost increase. Let's get the vehicle here as fast as possible. And I just want to offer the fire chief, obviously, a minute, if you would, Mr. Chairman, just to add on to anything I might have missed.
Thank you, Jamie. I as well, because I think it would be important for the community to understand that may not have been listening when we appropriated this and ordered this, that you explain what it's being used for and so forth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. A year ago, last September, we penciled our name to that vehicle with no obligation whatsoever. And at that time, they told us the truck would be ready in about 18 months. 1 year later, now in September, that truck will be ready in about 22 months. So the truck would be available to us in July of -- which would replace a truck that we currently put in service in June of '21. So that'll be 3 years old, and it'll have approximately 90,000 miles. They do about 30,000 miles a year, which is perfect. Every 3 years, we like to do that rotation with the frontline trucks. With that, now if this is passed, we're allowed to go into contract with that vendor. I'm so glad we did that back in September, because at that point, they told us 18 months. Now, I actually found out it's up to 3.5 to 4 years to get a truck. So the vendor is saying, if you don't want that truck, we've got a long line of departments that'll take this truck. So I'm glad we were allowed to do that last September, and I'm glad it put us in a real good position now that we'll be able to get that truck in July, that will replace a 3-year-old truck, and it's right as we've planned. So it's actually going to work out perfect if everything goes okay tonight.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Questions or comments from the council? Councilor DeLarco.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. I just ordered a vehicle, and I'm 3 years out. And I just want to inform everybody, if the unions go on strike, we're not going to get that vehicle
right,
either
UAW.
for a long time. So it's very important that we get this at least signed and delivered, because we don't know what the future's bringing with the contracts that they're under. So, just
Thank you, Councilor DeLarco. Councilor Jones.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the chief, are there any additional staffing and/or training necessary to accommodate this new ambulance, or is it just pretty
Any
straightforward?
more staffing, through the chair, any more staffing?
Or training?
No, that'll be a frontline truck, but I will add that next week will be the first time that we'll be able to put that third ambulance in service during peak hours. During the business week will be 4 new recruits are just finishing up week 2 of orientation.
Yeah.
Up to this point, we've had opportunities where we have put that truck on the road already, because we have the extra personnel during the day. And we feel that starting next week, we're gonna have, provide that extra layer of protection to the community with that third ambulance in service during the weekdays, which we're really looking forward to.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 23-54. A majority vote's required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 23-55, authorizing the placement of a debt exclusion ballot question relating to the town's allocable share of debt service on debt of the Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical School District on the ballot for the town election to be held on November 11th, 2023.
Seventh, sir.
7th, I'm sorry, November 7th. Just keeping you on your toes.
Another 3 elections.
Okay, clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to read this resolution. 23-55, authorizing the placement of a debt exclusion ballot question relating to the town's allocable share of debt service on debt of Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical School District on the ballot for the town election to be held on November 7th, 2023. Whereas Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical School District, now hereon known as the district, has called a district-wide election to be held on October 24th, 2023, to consider the approval of debt of the district in the principal amount of $285,992,692 to pay costs of designing, constructing, and equipment a new district high school, known as the project, in accordance with the agreement among the district's member cities and towns establishing the district. The district agreement and General Law, Chapter 71, subsection 16N, and whereas by vote of Massachusetts School Building Authority, known as the MSBA, on August 30th, 2023, the district was awarded a school construction grant to pay eligible costs of the project in a maximum amount of $82,730,777, with a grant will reduce the total amount of the debt to be issued by the district to pay costs of the project by such amount. And whereas in the event that the proposed debt of the district is approved, the town's allocable share of debt service in each year to pay costs of the project will likely have a significant impact on the town's annual operating budget. Now therefore be it ordered by the Town Council of the Town of Franklin that the town, pursuant to General Law, Chapter 59, subsection 21CK, shall seek voter approval at the election on November 7th, 2023, to assess taxes in the excess of the amount allowed pursuant to Mass General Law 59, subsection 21C, for the payment of the town's allocable share of the principal and interest on bonds or notes issued by Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical School District, to pay costs of designing, constructing, and equipment a new high school to be located at 147 Pond Street in Franklin, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that the end town clerk is hereby directed to place the following question on the ballot. Shall the town of Franklin be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 and 1/2, so-called the amounts required to pay the town's allocable share of the bonds issued by Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical School District to pay costs of designing, constructing, and equipment a new high school to be located at 147 Pond Street in Franklin, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto. This resolution to become effective according to the provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
You okay, Glenn? Move resolution 23-55.
Second.
Good job.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Jamie, as part of the discussion, would you just
Yeah.
make sure people understand this is different than what our town clerk spoke about earlier?
She spoke about it pretty eloquently.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for folks that have been paying attention a little bit, especially I'm sure the larger Tri-County community is aware of this. On late August, a few weeks ago, the state Mass School Building Authority did approve the Tri-County project. About 90 million of the full cost will be paid for by the state, which is pretty good. And so in October, on the election that the town clerk just mentioned, will be the district-wide authorization of the project. And that vote is simply saying, we want it, okay? But each individual community thereafter has to finance the project themselves. And obviously of the 11 communities, there's a lot of different strategies, and some communities will do what we're doing and try to jump on and do it right away. Some communities will wait 4 years. Some will deal with it in between. Some will deal with it in the excess levy they may have. Some will deal with it in a myriad of ways. And I think a lot of communities are still strategizing with their boards on what to do. Being the host community essentially of Tri-County, where we're also the second largest driver of the student population there. In addition, I would mention, if you build it, they will come. We have a lot of Tri-County apprenticeships between the school and a lot of our larger businesses in the industrial parks. In a long way, this is kind of almost like an economic development project to some degree. And everybody's aware of the need for more trades in our culture to build housing and projects and construction, engineering, the whole bit. And so from the financial perspective, really quickly, what is this going to cost? It's a 30-year borrowing, essentially, over 30 years at estimated 4%. We're hopeful that will come in lower. We're hearing from the finance team that interest rates have stabilized and that maybe the good bond ratings of the communities may actually get a better rate. But, as all of you know, you estimate a little higher to be more conservative, to make sure the public is aware of the cost. For the average voter at home, what does this mean, right? How much does this cost? If your house is appraised at $500,000, the cost on average is about $148 per household to pay for this project. A year. And people have asked me a lot of questions recently. So does the assessment go up and down? It can. As you know, Mr. Chairman, there's an arc to this story where the payments will be a little higher, and then it'll come down in the long run. But also note, the assessment changes every year, or could change every year depending on the enrollment. Now, Franklin's portion of the enrollment has been very stable over the years, so I don't actually expect an immediate decrease or a huge increase. But, it's 30 years. I don't know how many other of us will be around then, but at the end of this, you could see a different dynamic in the world and the economy. I don't know. But I've gotten that question, and maybe I think a lot of you have gotten that question a lot recently. So the payments can go a little up, a little down, depending on the enrollment. And the enrollment's based off the October 1st enrollment deadline each year, which is tradition in all school districts, including FPS. So this will be on November 7th, and I would defer to the town clerk about exactly how the mechanics at the ballot space would work, if anybody has any questions on that.
I think the other piece, I think it would be important for you to explain is, I'm sure there's somebody out there that's saying, wait a minute, are we putting the cart before the horse here? because the vote hasn't happened to build the school yet.
Yes.
Why are we voting the financing of it to put that on the ballot now?
Yep.
So maybe you could
Yep.
explain that so that our listening audience would understand why we're doing that.
Why'd the town attorney leave? No. I just,
He's leaving
I'm just
town.
kidding, Mike. I'm just kidding. It was just funny, like, right, the question. So he's going to get the finance book. But in short, there's two real reasons. One, the debt exclusion honors whether the vote were to happen on the school and be approved in October, or whether it came back and got approved in the spring. The debt exclusion, and if it was approved at the ballot on November 7th, would stay in perpetuity until that project got approved. And I mean, just being honest and real, the building is needed. It is needed very badly. It is literally crumbling. So even if the ballot vote were to be approved by the district this October, I suspect that they'll come back at another time to make sure that they get that. We can't sneeze at $90 million from the state. And so that debt exclusion carries. Also, the second reason is the community is engaged right now, and we tried to work with the state from a customer service perspective. You know, if people are really paying attention in the public to this, you know, why wait 3 years to deal with this issue? As articulated on October 2nd at the Joint Budget Subcommittee meeting, if a debt exclusion does not pass, the town portion we still have to pay for. So if you don't raise the revenue to pay for the project, then that means on an annual basis of about $2.1 million will be spent out of the town budget to pay for the project, which will obviously mean far fewer dollars that will be able to go to the public school district or other municipal services. So I hope I answered the question, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. And the other piece, just so that everybody understands, is if the school didn't pass and the funding did pass, that funding can be used for nothing but building Tri-County a new school. That money, no matter what, could never be used for anything else. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. So questions or comments from the council? Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you, the town administrator, just for a point of clarification on just a couple of things that ran through my head. One, how does this have any effect, or if it has any effect at all? And I know the answer, but I just wanted clarification.
Sure.
The 3% that we kind of allocate out of our budget towards capital projects and stuff, will this have or any kind of effect or have anything to do with that 3% that we put, that kind of margin between 0 and 3% for our capital investments?
Through Mr. Chairman, it doesn't have any direct impact, but as we just discussed a moment ago, I think to the question, it preserves, you know, if this doesn't get approved, then, you know, then some of that capital money may have to go to pay for the bond on this in 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. So it actually preserves the capital program. I hope that answered your question, Councilman.
No, that does. So in just another point of clarification, if the town of Franklin, the voters in the town of Franklin decide to say no against this, but 50.1% of the rest of the towns and communities vote yes, we are obliged to pay.
That's correct.
Period. Correct. So this is us thinking forward. That's kind of one of the things that I wanted to make a point with this tonight, is this is us looking forward so that we're not putting ourselves in a hole that we may have a very difficult time to get ourselves out of. With that being said, I am going to change it to a positive note for a minute and state that I'm 100% in favor of making improvements to Tri-County Vocational School. It is a great school, it's a great program, and we need to be looking into getting our children and our future children into the trades. Because by way of example, I've brought it up before, I'll bring it up again, 10,000 electricians, I use my trade as an example, 10,000 electricians are retiring every year, and there's only on average 7,000 new apprentices coming up to replace this. That's a 30% deficit. The level of skilled labor is diminishing, and it's diminishing quite quickly. And that's not just in the field of electricity, that's in carpentry, that's in auto body, it's in auto mechanics, that's in labor, and everywhere else. And that school is 1,000% supporter of those types of trades. And my hope is that we start to look forward to pushing our next generation back into the trades, back into these fields. Because in all honesty, if we don't, it's basic economics. If there's more work than there are electricians, that just drives our prices up. And it's just gonna make an electrician that much more expensive, because it's just basic economics. And that's true for everything. Your mechanics fixing your car is gonna go up, and all that kind of, all those things have a trickle-down effect. And we have to keep pushing towards getting our kids into this line of work. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I am totally in support, and I think this is a great plan for us to try to tackle this problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilor DeLorco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman. I agree totally with Councilor Jones. Obviously, I'm a tradesman myself. As you say, I just, for clarification here, I had a job up a couple weeks ago for a mechanic's job at Massport, and I pay $100,000 a year without overtime. I got 3 applicants, 160, 155, and 152. So that just goes to show you, there's no young kids getting into this trade. And, they could make $125,000 to $130,000 a year, and I got nobody that I can hire. So that's why I'm in total favor of this. We need to get more kids out there. Kids can make a good living out there.
Thank you, Councilor DeLorco. Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to show my complete support for the project, for not only the ballot question that will be happening in October, but obviously this debt exclusion, which is just so needed. I think people need to understand that a debt exclusion is for a specific project over a certain amount of time, and it is very different than an override, because a lot of people, especially online, there's been various things being said. There was something said in a local publication sort of equating the two, and they're really not the same thing. So I think the public needs to understand voting for this is for the Tri-County building. Eventually, as our town administrator has said, that debt sunsets when the bond is paid off. If we somehow get ourselves to an override question down the road, that, if passed, lasts forever. So they're very different things. And just on a personal note, I am here today as the son of a graduate of a vocational technical school. So I would not be here, I would not have the life that I have if my dad hadn't been able to go to Cambridge Ringe as a kid and get the skilled training that he needed to provide for our family. So I just wholeheartedly support this effort, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier Ledger. Any other councilors? Seeing none, then, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 23-55, a 2/3 majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 23-56, a resolution adopting the Town of Franklin 2023 Open Space and Recreation Plan. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 23-56, a resolution adopting the Town of Franklin 2023 Open Space and Recreation Plan. Whereas during 2023, the Town of Franklin began the process of updating the 2016 Open Space and Recreation Plan, OSRP, in a proactive approach to maintain and enhance all the benefits to open space that make up much of the character of the community and protect our green infrastructure, such as our water supply, land, working farms and forests, wildlife habitats, parks, recreation trails, greenways, and whereas the Town of Franklin's Conservation Commission, with support of the Conservation Agent, Department of Planning and Community Development, Department of Recreation, has prepared the Town of Franklin 2023 Open Space and Recreation Plan. And whereas the Town of Franklin 2023 Open Space and Recreation Plan was developed using a substantial public process over the course of 10 months through monthly focus groups, 3 public hearings, as well as community vision survey, allowing input from the Town of Franklin departments and officials, public agencies, and town residents. And whereas the Town of Franklin 2023 Open Space and Recreation Plan contains open space and recreation plan goals and implementation strategies developed within the public process, and whereas the duly noticed public hearings were held by the Town of Franklin Conservation Commission on February 21st, 2023, April 25th, 2023, and June 20th, 2023, to present the document's findings, goals, and strategies and obtain public input. And whereas having an authorized and current OSRP is required to apply and receive state funding programs related to open space and recreation, and whereas the Town of Franklin authorizes responsible departments and/or agencies to execute their responsibility demonstrated in the plan, whereas the Town of Franklin operates a city form of government as provided in a home rule charter, and the Town Council has the authority as the City Council as specified therein. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Franklin adopts the Town of Franklin 2023 Open Space and Recreation Plan and authorizes the Town of Franklin's Town Administrator to submit the document to the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, EOEEA, Division of the Conservation Services, DCS, for its approval and to take any and all other necessary actions. This resolution to become effective according to the provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Move resolution 23-56.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Jamie and friends. Nice bring
You left a lot, no, I'm just kidding. The committee's here too. No, just really quickly, I think we heard an update from Bricolai earlier this year. Many of you have been very involved in the process. I really hope everybody gets a chance to read, this is not snarky either.
No,
I hope everybody
not.
gets a chance to read the 348-page plan. When we transferred the position to full-time from part-time, this is exactly why this happened, and Bricolai couldn't have been a better employee for the job. We're gracious for her efforts on all of this. It looks better. I'll hold up a copy of the previous cover, which was kind of, just a couple pictures plopped on, so we're making a lot of improvements in it, and I know the pictures aren't just the whole words, but it's really the substance in it. This plan clearly takes Franklin to 2030 and beyond. It's expensive, but it's a really well thought out, comprehensive and omnibus document. It says preliminary final up there, and Brika's going to mention this, just so everybody knows. With an affirmative vote tonight, the plan goes to the state, and then the state has to approve it, just like the housing production plan the council approved last year. So Brika has a short presentation, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions.
Hopefully.
Bricolai, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here. Okay, so just a quick recap on the open space and recreation plan. I'll be calling it OSRP. So it really is a tool through which a community plans for the future of its conservation and rec resources. Really, it's a plan for plans, and it's a means to identify community-supported goals for open space and recreation. So it's a mass accumulation of public participation, stakeholder engagement, goals and objectives. It is a source of funding through state grant programs, and overall, I think it's just a great way to connect with residents about local conservation and rec issues. So I won't get too much in the weeds with our process, but we had 20 themed focus. I don't even recognize when I make them anymore.
No offense to the weeds.
No offense to the weeds. That's exactly right. So we had 20 themed focus group meetings with 100 plus identified stakeholder groups. I think we actually leveled out around 107 stakeholder groups that we identified and email blasted, of which you all were a part of as well. From January to May 2023, we did have public comments submitted through our questionnaire, the civic engagement process. The questionnaire itself was 30 questions, and it ran from February to April of 2023. Then we had a month-long comment period on the draft plan, which incorporated the results of that citizen questionnaire that ran from June to July. Now we are at review letters. So I am hopefully seeking a review letter or a vote from town council to be able to put in the plan prior to submittal from the state. Other review letters are from planning board, of which we already have. DCR and MAPC of which I'm both waiting on. So there are placeholders within the document for those letters from DCR and MAPC. I'm hoping they won't have revisions. They may. I don't know if you'd like me to come back at that time, but we can discuss that later. I doubt it'll be any substantial changes, to be honest.
I'm hoping that when the state DCR agency gets they can maybe stick their comment letter in it and they get it while they're reading it by Appendix F or whatever it is at the end.
So then next would be state submission and approval. So overall, there were 5 main goals that were identified throughout the open space, or throughout the civic engagement process. The first one, increase public awareness of open space and recreational opportunities. Second, promote, preserve, and enhance existing open space resources. Third, maximize recreational opportunities to meet the evolving needs of the community by maintaining current inventory of facilities and programs, and by providing new facilities and programs for both active and passive recreation. Fourth, protect natural, historical, and cultural resources and maintain a New England character. And 5, preserve and protect water resources. So lastly, I would just, I really wanted to thank the town of Franklin. I know it may be blasphemous to admit that I do not live here, but for a new hire, coming here, being involved in this civic engagement process, while it's not about myself, I'm very honored and humbled to have been a part of this for all of you. I learned a lot, not just about Franklin, but also of myself by listening to all Franklinites. I learned a lot about cricket that I never thought I would know. Pickleball. I had a blast looking at soil reports for Franklin, and fun fact, there's metavolcanic rock underneath our feet. I never realized that East Coast had volcanic activity. I think that's really cool. But all the same, it definitely wouldn't have been possible without it being a communal effort. To Jamie's point and the points that you made earlier about stitching the community together, it really is. The town administration, Conservation Commission, AgCom, Planning Board, the Senior Center, DPW, all of you, Rec Department, the Disability Commission as well. I inadvertently left them off, and everybody else that filled out the survey. So I think it's a great document.
Thank you, Brigitte. Questions from the council? Councilor Chandler.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Can you go to the front page for a second?
Yes.
Because I have to agree with our town administrator. Look how peaceful that is.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it made me want to read it. It really did. I mean, it was perfect. It just caught my eye and it made me, and as you know, I did read all 348 pages. So let me talk about page 199 for a second. On March 22nd at 1:54 p.m., you received an email from Councilor Frangillo.
Yes.
And he talked about connectivity, putting it all together, getting it all flowing. And that's like my main goal about this. That's what I love. So I didn't know if you could just speak to that or just say it's definitely one of your goals or.
So it is an identified goal, objective anyways. So in section 9 of the open space plan, it breaks out these 5 goals into a myriad of objectives. So I believe you've been calling it the Franklin Greenway colloquially.
Franklin Greenway, yep.
Yep. Additional components to that or goals would be to increase bike lanes. That's another objective. Looking at how to increase connectivity through neighborhoods, which I know Councilor Frangillo mentioned, but also DPW had already been looking at that, so that's a carryover from the 2016 plan. So there are a handful in section 9 that do speak to that. And then I guess another objective, sorry, I'm trying to remember section 9 as I'm speaking, but signage is a big thing, and that's something that has been talked about as well. I know, if I may speak for a different committee, but with master plan process, I know we've talked about identifying where certain open space areas are, even down at town commons, or the
Okay.
town common.
Great. And just lastly, the other email I really thought was great was a cross-country trail through like Schmidt's Farm.
Yes.
I thought that was a great email, yeah. So, thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Any other? Councilor Sheridan?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for your hard work too. And I went to Delcott over the summer, and everybody's very excited about the turtles. Everybody's looking for turtles. And I was wondering if you could explain, last time I talked to Delcott, you plan to have the different trees bloom at different times of the year. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so we, unfortunately, we have one casualty. One tulip poplar, coincidentally, has kicked it, so we'll need to replant that one. But we have different species of trees that we planted in just the open recreation area, and they all have different bloom times. They all have different wildlife and habitat value as well. Some are more geared to fall foliage than others. So one that encompasses all of that is a service berry. So coming spring, you'll see bright white flowers. It'll attract a lot of pollinators, and then in the fall time, it'll actually turn bright red. So, is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for the.
Thank you, Councilor Sheridan. Any other councilor? Councilor Frangillo?
Yeah, thank you. It's been said already, and I try not to take too much time, like, just patting ourselves on the back for hard work at these meetings. But I really want to make sure that we appreciate how much time went into this plan. 20 public hearings is just crazy, and it's not only Briekla, who has just done incredible since joining us, but these are conservation commission members who didn't necessarily sign up knowing that they'd be hosting 20 public hearings and going through hundreds of survey responses and boatloads of emails and putting together a few 100-page document. I mean, that's just an incredible amount of work, and we're so lucky to have the volunteers that we do on the Conservation Commission. It was one of my takeaways reading through this, just how annoying I was, like how many times, how much I wrote about this. I was very excited, and I still am. And as I said in my previous comments, the biggest duty we have as a council is to make sure that the hard work doesn't go to waste, and that we really do take a deep look at the recommendations, take a deep look at the findings, and start implementing some of the action plans. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Councilor Hamblin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair, I guess I don't have to say anything about Councilor Frangillo always being at all the meetings and being a pain, but I'm just joking. I was at a lot of those meetings too, and it was amazing all the time. I'm glad you mentioned the Conservation Commission, how much time everyone put into this. And it was really fun to hear what other people think and to get different ideas in a group together like that about really fun stuff like Schmidt's Farm. Like, what should we do with it, right? It's really exciting. And I want to thank you, Briekla, for all your work that you've done on this. I feel like we're really lucky to have you with us, so thank you. I do have one question. The sustainability group from the master plan, we met on Monday, and we talked a little bit about trees and forestation and forest management and maintenance. And I know that you have something in the Maple Hill area, maybe some a goal for that. I was wondering if you could just explain a little bit more about it for the sustainability geeks out there.
Sure. So for Maple Hill, but also really for all other conservation areas, it's a professional goal of mine to put forest stewardship plans on all of the properties. So those forest stewardship plans are 10-year plans that are paid for by DCR for municipalities to hire an arborist to come out, identify the health of the stand, the history of the stand being a forest, and even just history of the property to help us identify goals for those properties that we can also receive grant funding for. So the open space plan and these plans coincide actually quite well. So for example, there's one already on Delcart, and some of the identified goals in there would be, DCR actually has grants for volunteer subsidies. That might be the wrong word, but DCR will give us money to pay volunteers to help out at Delcart. I just have to send in the paperwork. Down to boundary markers. So making sure that when people are walking by the train tracks, they know that there are train tracks there, down to improving trail markers. I have one in the works right now for Riverbend for more trail markers. For Maple Hill, as Maple Hill moves through its planning process, you know, I imagine a lot of those same goals will be incorporated into it, but I still think it would be great to put a forest stewardship plan onto that. I did have our DCR forester actually come out to look at Maple Hill specifically. I know there were, through this open space process, there were a lot of questions about the current health of Maple Hill, given its past history, and it got gold stars for where it's at now, so it's rebounding really well and really healthily. And if you go out there now, you'll see a bunch of 2-3-year-old baby pines, and I encourage you to watch competition, because I think it'll be interesting to see who wins.
Yeah.
But,
Excellent,
yeah.
excellent, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First up, Ricola, you're one of the most pleasant individuals I've ever met. Your enthusiasm and your passion towards what you do, it radiates. What was the name of your pig again?
George Washington?
George Washington. You know, I've never met anybody who has the level of knowledge, but as much passion as you have with such areas that are foreign to me. I don't even know what the difference between a weed and a rose in many cases.
Nothing.
But
Perception.
Perception, that's how you look at it, I suppose. But kind of piggybacking off of what my fellow councilor said, Kobe's not wrong. A lot of hard work went into this. You've been a big part as well as a Conservation Commission. And I got to throw kudos out to Ryan Jetty for all the hard work that he's put in behind this as well. It was a really cool video that you guys put together. And Megan Hagan, who's taken over the role of Open Space, Recreation, Historical, Natural Resources Subcommittee for the Master Plan. I want to thank her for stepping up, because, in fact, one of the things I don't think many people realize is open space and recreation is one of the elements that's in the master plan. This is kind of one of those check off the list type of things that we have for the master plan. But you've also set a precedence for us, and we're really going to kind of emulate your work and kind of incorporate that into the master plan. I hope no one has any offense with that, but you've done such a great job with it that it just only makes sense to kind of move forward with those both with the imagery and some of the statements and the stuff that go along with it. But that's nice, because that works well into the plan. I'm sure that when we get to the point with the Open Space and Recreation Subcommittee, that will kind of incorporate some of those ideals into our plans. Other than that, all I want to say is just wow. I mean, holy crap, how many pages?
300.
Wow.
300 and something.
348.
I didn't read
348.
that, Brian, won't lie, I didn't read the whole thing.
348.
But just amazing work. And I look forward to working with you guys in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilor DeLarco?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, nice job. I just wanted to say, like, just all the hard work you've done, and I finally got my wife to walk Delcart this summer, and on a Saturday morning, and just so nice down there. Now her and her sister walk every Saturday down there, so that's just how nice it is down there. And I have pictures of my bees if you want to see them.
Yes.
You know, we talked about that before. So I finally dug them out, so I'll get them to you.
That's great.
All set? Thank you, Councilor DeLarco. Any other councilors? With that, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 23-56. A majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resounding unanimous. Thank you, Bricolai, for everything. Okay, moving on. Town Administrator's Report.
All right, through Mr. Chairman, so I'm going to go through a few items here. Couple of the ones that are linked on here, I'm not going to go into much detail because the reports speak for themselves, but I'm happy to answer any questions. So on the first one, as I suggested in the past, I'm going to give a quick update on the migrant housing situation. So just a couple points, I'm just going to run through them. Sorry for the stream of consciousness, but there's a lot to get out. First point I want to make, the National Guard is on site, as we heard the governor announce that. I think a few weeks ago. There was a short delay at the beginning, but now we have a member of the National Guard down there during the main daytime hours. Their responsibilities, by the way, are not public safety. Their responsibility really is just helping out any way they can within their training, but at least that's good news. We are still frustrated that the rapid response team or the other state nurses, public health officials, transitionary assistance individuals, other state agencies have not been on site at all. They have not been present, and they have not arrived. But as all of you would come to expect, and that's hopefully a theme tonight, the town of Franklin, to Bricolai's point earlier, and I think I mentioned it and everybody else did during the goals, fortunately we have a community that has an incredibly strong woven fabric between our town staff, our elected officials, the nonprofits in the community. I just want to report to the community, the situation over there is actually relatively very stable. There's still about 35 rooms occupied, about 100 or so people. It's 30 school-age children. And so I've been over there intermittently, just kind of driving by and want to go check in on things. Kathy Liberty at the Board of Health and Alicia Deptula, Cassia, the Board of Health staff have been nothing short of miraculous. They've been over there every single morning. Our public health nurse has been over there doing screenings, infectious disease tests, doing everything she can. She's a licensed individual, so she has been an amazing resource. Kathy has led the charge over there, as we all would expect, just given her experience in the pandemic. Just like Bricolai, we're very lucky to have Kathy in town. We've built a phenomenal relationship with the hotel manager, Vicky, who also is nothing short of miraculous. And all the hotel staff over there have done everything they can to keep the site as tidy and as orderly and as productive as possible. I wanted to give a shout out. We've started weekly meetings among all of our staff and stakeholders with the groups that we think can have an impact right away and address the needs, not what we think they need, okay? Not what we think may happen, not the hypothesis, but actually what people need, right? This is not a new issue in America, nor in Massachusetts, nor in Boston. We're all familiar with the Mass and Cass issue. We have experienced, talented organizations in this community who know the 101 and 102 on how to deal with homeless families, and we are very lucky. Obviously, the ones that stick out, the Franklin Food Pantry, Tina Powderly and her staff have already been on site, not again to try to get food that individuals can't eat or are just very disruptive to their systems, but actually talking to families and trying to get food and nutrition for those individuals that are more applicable for their culture. The food that the state has provided is not really the food that is needed. It's generally microwavable meals. These are not cooked fresh meals every day, which is very disappointing, but hopefully in due time that will come out. But Tina, as we would all know and expect from Tina. Calm, professional, warm, just going over there and getting boxes of fruit and other items. The Safe Coalition, every time I talk to Jen Knight, I am reminded at the level of knowledge that she has of dealing with human service conditions is absolutely unbelievable. And there's sometimes in me when I work with Jen, I say to myself, I'd never want to lose her, but sometimes I wonder maybe if the state should hire her to run all this, because her knowledge of individual people, cultures, and what's needed is just absolutely, is almost second to none. I want to thank Felicia, the library staff, who have been providing books and other minor small resources, some infant-led programs to make sure that families have a little relaxation to them, and can't thank Felicia enough. The YMCA, Scott, has been a part of our calls, and want to thank them for being a part of it. We did tap into the Interfaith Coalition. I want to thank Jacob Junker, as well as Father Bob, the new pastor at St. Mary's Church. We call him Father Bob. He likes to be called Father Bob, but it's Father Poitras. And he too, with St. Vincent de Paul, a big deal that I think people haven't really identified at the next level of government is faith-based services, church, for different denominations. Father Bob's been able to provide those resources, as well as the Interfaith Coalition, as well as food drives for individuals for the food that people need. Over there, they now have several tables set up with snacks and fruit, plantains and other things, oranges that are obviously very popular for the folks that live over there. And I want to thank, really quickly, I want to make a mention, because I was asked to, from Random Smiles. I just want to make clear to everybody, Random Smiles does not have the capacity to really assist at the level they need to right now. And they asked me to make sure I conveyed that, but still, when a family reached out to them at first, they still went down to Marshall's and got $100 worth of clothes for the family that reached out to them. So even though they're asking for any no more requests, the Interfaith Coalition, as well as I believe the Federated Church will be reached out to. They're now beginning at least some coalition of folks to deal with winter clothes coming up right around the corner. And I do want to thank Random Smiles and Mark Souza just for stepping in still, even without that ability to be able to individually. Mark led with his heart and couldn't say no to the one family, so he did what he could. And I do want to give a really warm shout out to the superintendent of schools, the assistant superintendent, Tina Rogers and Paula Morano, both who have been on site with the full services of the schools to enroll children, evaluate children, go through all the requirements under state laws about vaccination status, all the different things that are relative to every other student, treating them exactly like every other student, and getting up early in the morning and riding the bus with those kids to school to make sure that they were safe, comfortable, and were welcomed. The last thing I would mention is I don't think anybody would be surprised to hear that this community has come together organically and with just a little bit of leadership from various folks to address this issue. I don't think anyone should be shocked that that's the way Franklin runs. And we should all be really grateful and thankful and proud. I also want to give a shout out to the residents in the town who have not tried to overdo it. We talked about this at the last meeting. Right. Some communities, hundreds of people showing up with stuff, creating additional burdens and problems, all from the kindness of their hearts. This isn't, but I just thank everybody for paying attention to either our releases and our news, the superintendent's news, and the Board of Health, as well as those other nonprofits. They are doing things that are addressing the needs of the people that are there. The situation is very stable, it's very safe. There are still some challenges that we are working through. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Senator Roush and Representative Roy for listening to me vent this week. It was a whopper of a 10 minutes. People know I can have it every once in a while. I think a lot of local officials are frustrated. But with that has come additional communication from the administration. We have a bi-weekly meeting now for Amy and I to attend with the Lieutenant Governor directly to at least communicate back and forth. It's a little deja vu of the pandemic, to be honest with you, of those calls, every week or two, but I give the administration credit for trying to pivot a little bit and engage local officials at a deeper level to hear, again, directly from us about the actual on-the-ground situations that are happening in each of our communities, and not trying to project or theorize what's going to come. They've been able to turn that corner, and as we all know, it's been in the news. I think the administration has tried to file for more money through the legislature, and obviously there'll be some debate that's well out of our court here later on. So I just want to thank Rep. Roy, as always, for being available and listening and representing Franklin to the best of their ability, and Senator Roush as well and her staff for being on that call and being a phenomenal listener. Not just to my 10-minute vent, but also, Mr. Chairman.
By the way, it was 16.
It was 16. I called. That's not true. Fine, 16. I'll go 20 minutes on this one. But for the few of us that was on the call, thank you very much for them, and thank you for everybody in the community who's stepping up. Again, the situation is very stable over there. We're not hearing the same stories from some of the other communities that are involved in this at all. But I would expect nothing less out of Franklin for trying to do the right thing. So with that as a bit of a backdrop, I know we'll do another update in a couple weeks. Hopefully we'll have some more news exactly on the financing. And then second, under the TA report, Mr. Chairman, is the demolition delay bylaw report, as well as the decommissioning of Spring Street, both two goals that were on the agenda this year. That I was frustratingly having a hard time getting to, but our assistant for a while, Julie Jacobson, always showing up at my door like a kid for just, do you have anything more for me to do? Do you have anything more for me to do? So we gave her these projects. These are really fascinating. There's some deep reports in here. For the public at home, really quickly, the demo delay has been something the Historical Commission has asked for years, a review of that bylaw. We did go through that entire bylaw with them, as well as the building commissioner, and it came to the consensus that the bylaw is working very well. The Historical Commission is going to have, I think, some discussions about when to start those demo delays in terms of the year, but we will wait for their correspondence back. And then the decommission of Spring Street, I know, has gotten a little bit of attention, and thank goodness. It's a fascinating report. It dates back 200 plus years for those of you Franklinites and townies that really want to go way back generations. Most people do not know Spring Street is a public way. And I know you've tried to drive it, Mr. Chairman.
I have
God
driven
bless
it.
you for trying, because you can't get through it.
1950 something.
And the truck got stuck.
Well, we just barely made it.
Just barely made it. Spring Street goes from all the way to Washington, all the way over to Milford Regional Hospital on 140. Don't go in there lightly.
Please don't.
It is a treacherous hike. It is not easy. And really the goal was of this, if people notice, we've been trying over the years to give better access to Franklin State Forest, to the open space conversation a moment ago. There's a huge untapped resource in there. There's a lot of awesome trails. It's enormous. You can really get away from the world. We built the parking lot with Rep. Roy's support off of Beaver and Grove. At the top of Spring Street near the solar farm, there's another public parking lot up there that was part of the mitigation from that solar farm for about 15 cars. We're going to try to work with the state to put some trail maps. And we just wanted to evaluate, like, what if it wasn't a road, but what if we could create a trailhead along Spring Street through the whole state forest, and maybe through our state delegation work on some financing to be able to improve the conditions of that road, which is barely a trail. It's really just a very rocky woods. But there's an opportunity there to connect to the YMCA up at Forge Park. Julie did a great job on these reports, and hopefully down the line we'll hear from the Historical Commission, and we will work with DCR and the State Forest folks to see if there's any way we can try to collaborate on enhancing the trail and the road on that public way. So check those two goals off. Thank you, Julie Jacobson.
Thank you, Jamie. And just to clarify one point, because I don't want people to get the wrong impression that might just be listening. When you say the National Guard is on site, the National Guard isn't there with trucks and tanks and all of this.
Right.
And there's one National Guards person or two,
Yep.
depending upon the day, they're helping.
For about 6 hours a day, just try to do whatever they can to try to help the families and connect the dots. So we're very grateful for that. We could use more, so we're hopeful that Rep. Roy and Senator Roush can help us with that.
I'm sure they will, rather than listen for another 16 minutes.
Well, you know what? If I have to vent for 16 minutes and it gets action, then you don't want me to keep venting for
I
16
won't say I
minutes.
was falling asleep. I was not. I was there, though. I was on that call. Councilor Jones?
No, I think you answered my question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Sheridan?
Chair, through you, so we frustrated that the rapid response team hasn't made it there yet?
Yeah, I think I'd be remiss if I said it wasn't rapid. And I know that it is frustrating. But, I think,
They can change the name, or?
yeah, I just the response team would be good. But I think also in deference to the state, we all know one of the challenges statewide with this is there's not enough service providers for all the services that are needed. There's no transportation services for these individuals yet. Again, I think, basic food and other things, have got to still be triaged. There's a lot of work to go. But I think like the pandemic and like other emergencies, we're just trying to week by week as a team, try to chip away at it. And again, I can't say enough about the hotel staff, Vicky, and the entire team over there. Obviously on October 1st, we're told that the entire hotel will be filled. But again, I would caution people to not, we were told this before and people didn't arrive.
Right.
It could be throughout the whole fall. It may never matriculate. We don't know. So we're trying to deal with what we see in front of us, and if there are more families, we'll just continue our efforts at the local level and continue to advocate at the state level.
Great, thank you, Jamie. Any other question? Councilor Delaco?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To you, Mr. Chairman, to Jamie. Jamie, I've been getting a lot of phone calls that a lot of residents, they realize that the winter is coming, and they have some, maybe they have some old jackets for the kids and stuff, or even that they don't, can they drop them off up there, or what would they, where do you want them?
It's a great question. I would just ask anybody to pause, not going up
Okay.
there, because
Well, I
then
kinda figured.
there's got to be somebody to go through all the materials. I do know the Interfaith Coalition and some of the third-party nonprofits are going to communicate to the public hopefully over the next month or so. Once we evaluate the needs, how many people, but I know that it's on our radar. And so hopefully in October, we'll be able to get some additional messaging out and coordinate that program so we don't get flooded with too much or things we don't need. But we'll be working on that in October. So I would just pause on anybody going up there right now, and just wait for the cue, if you will, from some of the organizers in town.
Well, that's what I told them to do anyway. I said, don't do anything until we find out what's going on, but I just wanted it to be known, because I know I've got a few phone calls.
Sure.
Along with others.
Thank you, Councilor Delaco. Councilor Plagreen?
Through you, Mr. Mercer. I have questions about the students. You said there's about 30 of them. Have they entered the school system?
They have, there's about 30, and it's fortunately spread across all grades, so there's not really one huge impact one place. It's been pretty flawless so far.
And have we been able to check birth certificates?
That is something, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think that that's an issue that's going to pop up. If you're from another country, you may not.
But what about vaccination papers?
Yeah, the superintendent of schools is handling all of those issues, just like they would any other child who moved to Franklin.
Okay, because that's very important. I've got calls about that, about having students in maybe that have not had their vaccinations, but I'm sure then that they are taking care of that.
Yeah, I would just add, if anybody has any questions regarding the school-related issues, I mean, obviously, I can answer probably a little bit, but I've gotten a lot of emails about that, I really need to encourage everybody to email, the school administration who are just obviously know the process and the requirements and the laws much better than we do, but they're facilitating this and they've been experiencing this, for the last month. So I would just encourage anybody out there that has questions on these matters to contact the superintendent's office and wait for further direction from the superintendent.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Pellegrini. Councilor Chandler?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the town administrator. I mean, obviously, we want to take care of people, and we have a duty to educate people,
Right.
definitely. The one question I haven't really seen asked is, you talked about 30 kids, but I'm going to say, at 15,000 a kid, if we have 50 kids, it's 750,000. If there's 300 people at that hotel and there's 100 kids, it could be 1.5 million. I mean, so I'm really upset about the state because we don't know if we're getting that money. I mean, if we have to come up with 1.5 million, never mind 750, there's 5 firefighters, 5 police officers, and 5 DPWs going home the next day. I'm very frustrated with that. And
Understandably
that's
so.
reality for us, though.
Right.
Because
It
we have a duty to educate the kids. But, I mean, those numbers I'm throwing around are not crazy numbers if there was 100 kids. They're right on the money at 15,000 a kid.
We've been given some preliminary
Okay, thank you.
information, but nobody can tell us when.
Yeah, so
but where does
the
that
good
money
news
come
is, so there's some good news and bad news, and I think Councilor Chandler, I think, asked a question that many people are curious about. The state has already approved in a former piece of legislation, $104 a day per child for reimbursement, okay? So if you add that up over the course of a full school year, that's about $17,000, $18,000 per child. So theoretically, that is going to
Okay.
cover the cost
Okay.
of those children.
Thank you.
That's already been appropriated in a separate piece of legislation. We've all been getting that citation out of the administration through DESE, and there's a dedicated person, by the way, that is collaborating with the superintendent of schools from the Department of Education. I think the question from local officials is, when is that going to come in? What's the requirements? If a student leaves in the middle of the year, how does that flow? And I think we also have to give the state some time to work through a lot of these dynamics. These are challenging situations. We're at a meeting today with Norfolk County. The town of Plainville has 2 hotels. I think the town of Westboro has 3 hotels. So there are other communities that are dealing with larger populations. I think Dedham has a couple as well. And so those questions, Councilor Chandler, that you're asking are obviously amplified even that much more in other communities than here. But they have committed to that. And like every year, October 1st is like kind of the enrollment deadline, if you will, for the school year. And so they're basing that number off your enrollment as of at least October 1st. Post October 1st, we've asked the question, and I know that Representative Roy and Senator Roush have asked the same questions out of the administration. Everything we're asking, by the way, everything we're asking here tonight or to ourselves at home or with our families, the state representative and state senator are asking the same questions. We've confirmed that in the last couple of weeks. And so when do those payments, well, what if a student comes in December or next March? But, the state's dealing with the triage today, so maybe they can't answer those questions yet. But they have funded and committed to $104 per day per child as reimbursement, which about comes out to about $17,000, $18,000 a year, which is about the town of Franklin. I think it's pretty much right on the town of Franklin's per pupil cost. But that happens to be the statewide per pupil cost in the aggregate.
The only thing I would add to that is, or concern, because I asked the question during our phone call with Senator Roush and Rep. Roy, and that is, what if some of these kids, or one of these kids, or a group of them, need special
Education. Excellent.
special,
Accommodation.
require
Accommodation.
special instruction of one kind or another? Where does that money come from?
Great question.
And that's the number probably that scares me more than anything as we sit here now, because that can be a very large number. And the only answer I've been able to get to date is that there may be a $1,000 adjustment to that 104 number, or that $17,000 number. There may be another $1,000 that could be there, but that's not definitive. And to Jamie's point and to Councilor Chandler's point, one of the bigger questions that we continue to ask is, okay, if this is what we're going to get, when are we going to get this?
That's right.
And nobody can give us that answer. And the legislature, our legislative body, Rep. Roy, Senator Roush, are asking that question on a weekly basis. But we need to give the state some time to kind of go through all of this, but at some point, hopefully we'll get the answers to the 5 pages of questions that we submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Okay. Next item on the agenda is subcommittee and ad hoc committee reports. Capital didn't meet, EDC didn't meet, budget didn't meet, master plan?
Yes, sir, we did. We met on September 13th, just a couple of weeks ago, actually last week, in regards to upcoming harvest events, the Harvest Festival events coming up. We're putting plans together to have a booth as well as some literature that's going to be available, so please come on down, pay a visit to us. We're hoping the public will come out and meet us and get to know a little bit about what the master plan goals are. We will be revealing a new logo as well as some cool imagery that we've been working on. We've come up with a new slogan, a very clever slogan that's referred to as Form Franklin's Future. And we're going to be having some nice posters and other cool things at the Harvest Festival that you guys that on display, as well as some pamphlets that Melanie and Erin have been working together on putting together for the for the Harvest Festival. And our subcommittees are currently meeting, and we're waiting on more data from Bader and Barrett as they continue to gather more information themselves. Our next meeting is, I apologize, I don't have it right in front of me. It's next week, right?
27th,
June 27th.
Yeah, 27th. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Davis Thayer Reuse Advisory Committee, Councilor Plagreen.
Through the chair. We had our meeting last night, and it worked out very well. We had on our agenda the police, the recreation and cultural, and talked about, well, we'll start with, the police came forward, the chief, and after much discussion and all, it came out that he really wasn't interested personally in the Davis Thayer School. Didn't think it was large enough, and the thought of keeping the police station now and having an annex, and having certain ones be at one and then certain ones being at the other, it was a thought. The recreation department liked the idea of using the Davis Thayer School. In fact, I think it would have been a little bit too large for them. And again, with them, perhaps to use what they have and some of the space over at the Davis Thayer. So a lot of good ideas are coming forward. Cultural, maybe to be able to work in with the recreation department at the Davis Thayer. So these are all things that we're thinking of and people are thinking of. Castle Booth was there, the 2 representatives, and one of them said that he did not see a police department going in that building at all. So that will be in the minutes. And let me see what else was said here. Well, we did set up a date. Jamie, what was it, the 21st of November?
Nope.
And the 20th?
Nope.
On a
November, you almost threw me a curveball there, Deb. October 20th
October 20th.
from 2 to 5.
And
And
the
Saturday, October 21st from 10 to 2
Yep.
will be the couple open houses where people can look at the building. From anybody who's potentially interested in evaluating the site for some sort of use, or if people want to go back and enjoy the building for memories. I just want to remind everybody that there's no elevator, there's stairs only, and so the staff is going to have to work on some of those issues to be able to get people inside who may not be able to. But those are the 2 dates of the open houses.
Okay. And then a large discussion was on cleaning out the school, that there's a lot of things that are still left in there, namely a lot of desks and chairs. And our committee had suggested that we have people put in that they might like to have some of the desks and all, because Mike D'Angelo was saying what they do is they toss them. And I just think that's a waste of money to toss them. There might be a lot of people out there that would be interested for down in their den and wherever for their kids to have their own little desk, prepare them for school. So that's a discussion. But all in all, I thought it was a great meeting.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Pellegrini. Okay. Moving on, future agenda items.
No, police station.
Oh, police station, we didn't meet.
You didn't meet.
No.
Gatra.
GATRA?
Yeah, GATRA Advisory Board met today. It was a pretty quick meeting. The big item was, for the first time, a clear packet telling advisory board members what their role is. And and some basic information about how GATRA works, how it's structured, how it's organized, some of the things that we should be looking for within our role. It was a very welcome piece, and I think will help with the sustainability of the organization and make sure that, you know, there's a pretty rapid overturn of members, and so making sure that they can catch up to speed quicker will be a big deal.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Now, future agenda items. Councilor Sheridan.
Not this time.
Councilor Frangillo.
I just want to make sure that we don't lose, that we revisit the flag policy conversation. That doesn't fall off the map in whatever form that should take.
Yeah, understood. Anything else?
That's it.
Councilor Hamblin.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Just want to second the flag issue, Mr. Chairman. Nothing else, thank you.
Councilor Chandler.
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Pellegrini.
I think I had asked the last time if we could have something about the old museum, the brick school, you know, where it stands right now. And there was one other thing there, too.
The meeting house.
The,
Well, that's
That's
the.
the old museum.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
that's
sorry,
the South
meeting
Museum.
house,
Yeah,
the old
meeting house.
museum, thank
Yeah.
you, thank you.
the
Just to have a report on the three of them to see what's going on and where we stand.
Through
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman,
Mr.
very quickly, the cupola is not going to be scheduled to get to work till next spring at the earliest. The Red Brick Schoolhouse, the community will be receiving a hopeful invite very soon for ribbon cutting, because the exterior is done. The DPW is working on the landscaping. There's a couple punch list items that have to get done, but the vast majority of the exterior is complete. And I'm not sure what the request is with the museum, but I'll circle back with Councilor Pellegrini after the meeting and find out what that is.
With
Okay.
church.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
The cupola, why is that taking so long?
It's just, there's so much work to do. I
So
can't,
much work to do on the cupola?
no, in town.
Oh, in town,
Yeah.
other projects?
Right.
But my goodness, this has been going on for a year and a half anyway, probably longer.
We've spent that year and a half completing the Red Brick Schoolhouse. So hopefully, once the red brick is done right now, I mean, I know people, and I respect that people get frustrated. The schools are frustrated with, you know, the bleachers, the schools are frustrated. I mean, there's just so much work to do. Remington Jefferson, I mean, there's so much stuff to do. It's just, it's overwhelming, and it's just difficult, because when you do a project like that, you got to start it and finish it right away, because you got to get scaffolding up. Costs are very high right now, but we will get it done. The appropriation is done, but now with the red brick schoolhouse done, we're going to be focusing back on the museum next.
Thank you.
Counselor Jones?
Yes, sir.
Counselor DeLuca?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, counselor comments. Counselor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to thank everyone from the Franklin Elks and those amazing donations tonight. Seems like that presentation was a few days ago, but that was tonight. I want to mention I had a fantastic meeting with Jen Knight Levine and her staff this week at the Safe Coalition, because they had the forward thinking to apply for a grant, and they received it from Rockland Trust to do some preventative work to help LGBT youth in Franklin before they reach the point of substance abuse.
Right.
So I just think it's fantastic that they're thinking outside the box and thinking about how they can actually help kids that may be struggling. And what came from that meeting is what I think will evolve into their willingness to host a community of providers in that space. So we talked a lot about that other groups were doing work to help LGBT kids, to help LGBT adults, LGBT seniors, whatever. So rather than duplicate services, let's get everybody together, talk about what's going on, figure out how we can kind of maybe put a coalition, if you will. So that was very exciting, and thank you to them. And just finally, I just want to thank everybody that is handling this migrant situation, because it's not easy, right? And the discussions aren't easy, the politics aren't easy, the vitriol on social media is completely out of whack, right? But these are people, and these are children, and they're in our town, and we're responding with dignity, compassion, empathy, and professionalism. And everybody involved is to be commended, because these are people. We'll figure out the money. The questions about the money are valid, but we're getting the services needed to people and to children that are in our community, and I just want to thank everybody for that. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor Cormier Ledger. Counselor Chandler?
All right, I didn't have much this week, but I'm such a boomer. I was kind of sad. Like, this isn't political, but you saw that the U.S. Senate today or yesterday took away their dress code. And I'm a guy. I'm very, this is my uniform. I wear a shirt and tie no matter whether it's 120 or 20 below. So I don't really agree with that. I kind of wish they kept the decorum, but that's just me. Like I said, the world's passing me by a little bit, but thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Chandler. Counselor Pellegrini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really didn't have anything except now to agree with what you just said.
Thank you.
And I think we're very lucky the way that everybody dresses when they come to our meetings. It's a sign of respect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor.
Old age is what it is.
Counselor Pellegrini. Counselor Sheridan?
Well, this was a very exciting meeting. A lot of good stuff going on. That the Elks coming, the open space, the town coming together for the migrants. It kind of reminded me of a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
So I'm going to second everything that Councilor Ledger said about the migrants. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Sheridan. Counselor Frangillo?
Yeah, that's really sweet. Every time the Elks come and present as much money they do and care for our veterans as much as they do, that's a special moment. A few things to call out. Tomorrow we got office hours, 8:30 at the Senior Center. Everyone's welcome to those. We get the Harvest Fest next Saturday. That's the 30th, 12 to 5. One of the best days of the year to be in Franklin. Don't miss that. I want to call out one of those groups that's helping the migrants, and, you know, sort of one of the groups to look to as you're seeing how you can help, and that is the SAFE Coalition. And as discussed, I mean, Jen is very, very knowledgeable, as is her staff, about some of their needs. They're going face to face. They care a lot about making sure that we're not just throwing resources, but that they're actually meeting current needs. And they're doing a really good job of working with other community partners. Franklin area moms have been doing a ton, getting resources together. Fish, Neighbor Brigade have all been working together. So if you're looking for one of the places that you can help, go through the SAFE Coalition. They have an essential needs drive that they've put together with some of the current needs, and I imagine that they'll be one of the decent resources, as well as the Interfaith Council or Interfaith Coalition, that you can look to for some guidance. And the last thing, I wanted to thank Ray Lynn and the Black Box for the volunteer fair last Wednesday. This was something that came out of the arts and culture conversation. It came up like, oh, you know, it's difficult for people, especially new residents or even, you know, longtime residents, to figure out where the volunteer opportunities are, to get connected with the groups. We have so many people doing so many really cool things, but it can be difficult to find those opportunities. And so, to her credit, Raylan Mercer stepped up in one of those meetings and said, well, we could host a volunteer fair and get a whole bunch of groups together. And yeah, I wasn't sure what that would look like, and then all of a sudden, hey, we're doing it. It's here's the time, here's how it's going to look, and they did, and there were a whole bunch of groups, and I hope that it's the first of a few to come, because it got hurt by the hurricane and tornado warnings in terms of attendance, but still people showed up, and certainly there was a high attendance from our local organization. So thank you to the Black Box for hosting that, and I hope to see more in the future.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Councilor Hamblin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to echo all the sentiments that have been mentioned from my fellow councilors, with special thanks to the Elks, the bingo, and the riders. It's just amazing how much money that they donated to our veterans. And Bricolai and the Conservation Commission, they're still here. Thank you for hanging out with us. Well, thank you for that wonderful report. I was going to mention the Harvest Festival. Come to the Master Plan Committee booth, and you'll see us all there, and you'll get to write down what you think we should be working on and help us form Franklin's future. Farmers Market is still ongoing, don't forget. And the last market is October 27th, and that's the Great Pumpkin Weigh-In. So if you're growing your pumpkins, hopefully they haven't rotted in the rain. There's also a decorating contest with the theme of what do you do to help the bees. So if your pumpkin has rotted, you can decorate one and bring it and join the fun. But this Friday, the Fish Lady will be back, so that's very exciting. The library will be there with their Farmers Market Fun. There'll be live music, and thank you to the town administrator for ranting for 16 minutes to get some information, because we all want the information. And I just want to reiterate that it's amazing what people in Franklin are doing to help with compassion. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Sheridan, I really am happy this is a Hallmark movie and not a Lifetime movie network. But
Up TV too.
tell me about it. Quick question, Mr. Chairman, to Councilor Plegri. The Davis Day scoreboard, did that come up at all? I know that's still in the basement. And hopefully it's getting
But that's something
treated
you
well.
certainly, you had brought that up at another
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't know if any discussion came along as to what might become of the scoreboard.
May end up in the museum.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say,
That would be,
Like a
that would be,
dumpster.
that would be great.
Probably not in Councilor Jones's cellar.
Well, that's where it started, and that's.
And I get that.
Gonna light it up.
So that's great. I appreciate that, because I put a lot of hard work into that.
I
It's
know
hard
you
to
did.
believe
I
that
know
was,
you did.
that was 12 years ago
A long time.
that I refurbished that scoreboard. So I'm sad to hear that the school's closed and it's no longer going to be used. but I appreciate the fact that it may end up in the museum. Do you know anyone who works at the museum who might be able to? Okay. Anyways, one of the things that popped into my head when I was hoping the town clerk was gonna stick around, but I'll blame her for leaving. She said, Jamie, Mr. Chairman, just a quick point, is this, if you could mention to her, she said that with the confusion with the ballots, how she said there's gonna be a green and a red ballot envelope. Could you throw it by her and ask her if it would be possible to add a color code to the ballot so that the ballot matches the envelope? So they like green with green, red with red. Just something I thought of I couldn't really bring up during her point earlier. If I know
Debbie's
ink is
got an answer, I
expensive.
think.
Huh?
The ballot isn't anything that you can touch, but the envelope, and that's even difficult to get something on that, because we did this another time years ago, and I used a sticker to show that the sticker had one ballot in it. Without the sticker was the opposite election. So I think she's doing a great job doing it just the way she is.
Just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
So something like that. And of course, my other point that came up that I think has already been answered is just the Habitat for Humanity's in getting that going. So, other than that, great night tonight. The Elks, thank you very much. Nikolai in Open Space, thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. No, not yet. Councilor DeLarco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to thank my brother Elks. I know that how much hard work that they do down there, how much they want to volunteer for a lot of events. Couple of things. Obviously, you're right about Jen Knight. I mean, we knew that 8 years ago when I was sitting on the stage in the high school, and Jeff Roy and myself were saying, you know, we got to find somebody to run this. He said, so let's try to pick somebody out in the crowd. So every time they got up to speak, Jim Derrick got up, and I said to Jeff, well, there's one. And then Jen got up, and I go, well, there's another one. So we grabbed them right after the meeting, and that was great choices. The other thing is, I got to give a shout out to whoever this is that does the food for the schools.
Colin.
Because my friend is a city councilor up at Peabody, John Turco, and he came in and said at his meeting, they showed pictures of Franklin's
Steak and asparagus.
steaks and all that stuff, and he was wondering how it got done, and he was like, Franklin, he goes, what am I, you know, we worked together, so it was a good dig for me to give him, but yeah, so shout out to them. And I have to give a shout out to the first responders today. My daughter got into an accident pretty bad on King Street today. The first responders showed up, the police and fire, and of course my daughter was pretty banged up. Luckily she's okay, but she was very upset when something happens like that. She had a dog in her car. That's kind of who's caused the accident, and she was just so thankful to the police and fire for how nice they treated her, because she was very upset. And actually, one of the firefighters was walking her dog up and down a chain while everybody was trying to calm her down. So I got to give a shout out to the police and fire, because I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor DeLarco. I'll just reiterate what every one of my councilors, fellow councilors have said. And thank you to the Elks, thank you to our department heads, our administrative team for helping us achieve that list of goals that we talked about earlier this evening. I also want to give thanks to all of our department heads and administration for dealing with the migrant issue and the compassion that they continuously show. But a special to Kathy Liberty and the Board of Health, because Kathy Liberty just finished 3 years of a pandemic, dealing with that day after day after day, and then without much of a break, all of a sudden, we have the migrant situation, and she was the first one to throw her hand up and say, I'll take the lead. And I just can't thank her and the Board of Health and everyone else for doing what we all know our community does, which is welcoming and helping and compassion to people. With that, Jamie, did you have an update from Nancy? I know she called me, so.
I wanted to just put her up to the mic. I already forgot most of her answers. She's going to kill me. She can do a little bit of that. I think there's one in the envelope she said she can't change, but she'll send you guys an email tomorrow. I was trying to hear her. I couldn't hear everything, and I don't know.
Understood.
I give her.
Thank you, Nancy,
Thank you,
for
Nancy.
continuing to listen to the meeting after you went home. Okay, with that.
She's going to kill me.
We have.
She just, wait a minute. Let's have fun. Let's just do this for.
Yeah.
Why not?
Better than an email.
I'm just going to put you on the mic, Nance.
No swearing.
Whoop.
Seriously?
Wait a minute. I forgot what is this? Say. Do you want me to put you on the mic? She cannot change the color of the envelopes.
Okay. What about
They
the
come from the state. I think Councilor Pellegrini mentioned that too. Yep.
Nancy, you used your
Yeah.
3
What about the
minutes
ballot?
out early on.
Yeah.
Go to bed, Nance.
Okay.
It's slowly not a Hallmark movie
And you can't change the color of the envelope.
I have no.
Looks a lot more like cable access.
All right, that's good. Thanks, Nance. Yep. You too, bye.
Appreciated that.
Cannot change the color of the envelopes, and the ballots will clearly state Tri-County and the town of Franklin for two
Thank you,
different
Nancy.
elections.
Okay, with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Non-debatable. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, one and all. Thank you for those